Vikings will be on the clock exactly 2 weeks from today with the 12th pick as we approach the 2022 NFL Draft. We're now joined by Pro Football Focus's lead draft analyst, Mike Renner, to dissect everything that's about to go down. But Mike, I know that, we have the Super Bowl, everybody's going towards the Lombardi, but I feel like the draft is almost like your Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, I was just telling someone this earlier today about how I was like at Super Bowl and the buildup of that week wasn't close to me to the build-up to the draft. The draft is my favorite time of the year. I don't care that it's my busiest month of the year, April. It's still the most fun I have all year.
Well, we're so happy that you took the time to be able to talk to us. I know recently in your podcast, Tailgate, you addressed how every team's free agency moves affected their draft target. So what do you think the Vikings free agency moves says about what they plan to do in the draft?
I think they can go a lot of different avenues. I think their free agency moves, or kind of lack thereof, basically says they want to build through the draft. They have to replenish through the draft. They're in a sort of cap situation where that is where this team is going to have to improve, is via those draft picks. So I think they're a strong candidate to not only, and I know Vikings fans probably don't want to hear this, not only like build through this draft, but to add more picks yet again, for like the third straight year now, where they probably are going to be trade back candidates consistently. And especially where they sit at pick 12 because of how deep this draft is towards the top. It may not have elite talent, but it has a lot of guys with first round grades in this class that if they can pick up a couple more picks, I think they're going to be doing so.
Yeah, it's hard to really tell, though, what this new Vikings front office will do with the brand new general manager and new head coach, and really his first draft for Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. And I guess when you say that there's a potential to move back, what makes you think that?
That's just the analytically driven teams. Obviously, Kwesi coming over from the Cleveland Browns, was at the 49ers before that, and obviously comes from an analytics background. That is what the data suggests, is that you get your value back by having more picks, that the confidence that, in your evaluation towards the top of the draft is often overstated with how good those guys end up being in the NFL, and that the second and third round of the draft often has far more good players than sort of is previously anticipated. It's far easier to find talent there than people think. So I think that's why I say that they're a likely trade back candidate, and combine that with the fact that there's a lot of holes. This is a Vikings team that has a lot of needs when you look up and down that roster. So those two things combined sort of makes a perfect storm.
So let's just say they do use the 12th pick. Where do you think they will go as far as position? And is there a name that is attractive to you?
The name that I keep going back to with them is Derek Stingley Jr. at cornerback from LSU. I think, obviously, they wanted Jeff Gladney to be that guy. He's out the door now in Arizona, but they have the need at cornerback that is probably the most desperate on this roster. But I don't think you have to pigeonhole yourself into one position. It's just that would make a lot of sense because of a talent perspective. Stingley, LSU cornerback, is probably a top 5 player in this class, pure talent-wise. But he hasn't played a lot of football, broke his foot this past fall, had ankle issues back in 2020. So injury concerns will follow him, and that's why he's going to fall in the draft. But as far as a position they need and a player that is talented, that is too good of a fit, in my opinion. So that's one that's going to get mocked a lot. But I could see them going wide receiver also. I could see them going offensive line. I could see them going a number of different positions. They just, like I said, have a lot of places to address, and probably a front office that's not going to pigeonhole themselves into one spot.
Yeah, I think the last mock draft you did was in March, and obviously with free agency moves that changes a little bit. You had cornerback Trent McDuffie as the 12th pick to the Minnesota Vikings out of Washington. Another corner in the second round, Roger McCreary out of Alabama. And then in the third, a guard, Dylan Parham out of Memphis. You want to change that a little bit, maybe for Vikings fans, kind of after what we were able to do?
I honestly think that the 12th overall pick, I'm leaning more towards the idea of taking a wide receiver, because you just look around at the teams winning, and you're not even just winning, the team's going far in the playoffs. Whether it's the Bengals run this past year or the Bucs run the year before that, what do they all have in common? They had weapons. These teams have wide receivers that can win one-on-ones. And as good as Josh Jefferson has been, he is just one guy. Adam Thielen is not, at this point in his career, going to be that guy anymore that you can trust to consistently win, to where I think with Kirk Cousins and with their plan to now build around him with the extension they gave him, I think providing them more weapons could be where they lean in the first round. Because there might not be a wide receiver drafted by the time they get to pick 12, so they could have their pick of the litter.
Well, I love that take because you see so many mock drafts coming out right now. Obviously, we're feverishly watching all of them. And a lot of them are defensive. A lot of them are cornerbacks. So wide receiver is a very interesting take. So we appreciate that insight so much. As far as the corner needs or the edge needs, is this a draft that's deep enough that the Vikings are able to address that later on then?
Corner, I would hesitate on. I don't think it's that deep later on. I think the difference between the two guys we've already mentioned here, Derek Stingley and Trent McDuffie, and then what you'll find in the second or third round is massive difference. Those guys are top 10 sort of players. The draft after that really falls off a cliff. Edge, though, is the one where, while I don't usually endorse waiting on, obviously a lot of the top edge rushers in the NFL are first rounders. This year is different. This year has a ton of talent going into day 2. I think there were, of the top 100 on the PFF draft board, 17 of those guys are edge rushers. So if you want one, day 2, second round, third round, even possibly, is where you can find one in this class. So if I'm sort of power ranking the positions I want early in this draft, it would probably be like wide receiver, corner near the top, and then second round would probably be edge, because you're probably going to get a guy that you could even have a first round grade on all the way into the second round.
All right, well, thank you so much to Pro Football Focus's lead draft analyst, Mike Renner. You can follow him on Twitter at PFF_Mike. Definitely check it out because they have some of the most extensive draft coverage leading up into the 2022 NFL Draft.